Good afternoon, Matrix. The next act we're going to look at is possibly the latest act in our country called the Consumer Protection Act. It only came into effect on the 1st of April in 2011, and it really affects every single person who transacts with a business or another person, because it's about that transaction that you are being protected. So what is the purpose of this Consumer Protection Act? It promotes a fair and accessible and sustainable marketplace for consumers, their products and their services. So it's quite important that we understand it's within this marketplace where those transactions take place. It sets norms and standards so that the consumer is protected. It prohibits, which means it says no, it puts a stop to the use of any unfair marketing practices. Sometimes we refer to them as unscrupulous marketing practices. It promotes responsible consumer behavior, right? It's also about informing the consumer about what their rights are. It lays down laws relating to the transactions and agreements that businesses and consumers interact with. It brings into being the National Consumers Commission and the National Consumers Tribunal, which will then enforce the protection of consumers. So let's just have a look at this example here. It's two cartoons, and the first one says, "You're right, we must be wary of claims that sound too good to be true." And then the other lady says, "One of the reasons we have a new Consumer Protection Act is to protect us from misleading advertising and labels." So let's take, for example, strawberry and yogurt. If the yogurt says it's a strawberry yogurt, then there needs to be real strawberries inside that yogurt. Then the labeling is wrong if they have not put real strawberries inside. They would then need to label it as strawberry flavored yogurt. The next little cartoon says, "Does the Act say we're allowed to return products that are not suitable for what the labels promise?" And the lady says yes, and it also says that the labels must be written in plain language so that everybody can understand them. Let's have a look at another cartoon. "Summer is here and I'll have to lose some weight. The label on these pills say it will be easy." And once again, be careful of misleading labels. Sometimes they trick you by claiming that the product will do things that are not quite true. Now, there are going to be 11 different rights that consumers have under this Act. I'm going to chat about these rights in my next videos. It's quite a long section, but just to mention some: you have the right to privacy. You have the right to choose what product you want to buy. You have the right to disclosure of information, in other words, to be given information. You have the right to fair and responsible marketing. And like I said, there are 11 of them that we'll go through. One of the things I always teach my children is that you need to know your rights, so that if you're being treated unfairly or not according to the Act, if you simply stand at a counter or a till and you say, "I know my rights according to the Consumer Protection Act, please call your manager," very quickly they give in to what your demands are. And a simple thing like, if the label on the shelf says that something costs £2.99 and you get to the till and they now want to charge you £4.99, you have the right to be charged £2.99 because that is what the label said. As with all the acts, we need to look at the effectiveness of the Consumer Protection Act on businesses, and we need to understand that it has an impact. The first one is a positive impact that we're going to look at, and that means that there is now a system which enables businesses to resolve disputes fairly through the National Consumer Commission and the Consumer Court. Businesses may build a good image if they ensure that they do not violate the consumer rights. So in other words, if you feel that a business is treating you and respecting all your rights, they then get a good image and a good name. You may gain customer loyalty if you are compliant with the CPA. Businesses may be safeguarded from dishonest competitors. So if the competitor is doing something that's dishonest, the consumers will leave them and then come to you. Businesses may be protected if they are regarded as good business. It prevents larger businesses from undermining smaller ones. There are a lot more negatives in terms of the impact on businesses. Confidential business information may become available to competitors, which puts you in a risky position. Businesses have to disclose more information about the products and processes and services. Businesses may feel unnecessarily burdened by the legal processes according to this Act. Penalties for non-compliance may be very high. The staff need to be trained. Legal experts need to be consulted, which increases the costs to the business. Many business documents need to be simplified or revamped at extra costs to the business. Administration costs increase as legal contracts need to be worded in plain language and pitched at the level of the consumer. Businesses may need insurance against claims from consumers. Businesses have to replace or repair faulty items or refund money if a fault occurs within 6 months after purchase. The supply chain management and stock levels will have to change as defective goods have to be replaced within 6 months at the request of a consumer. And so you can see there are far more negatives than there are positives to the business. But it's not worth not complying because you want to gain the loyalty from your customers. So where or who do you go to if you feel that your rights have not been upheld? So the National Consumer Commissioner, they are the ones who will help you resolve a dispute with the supplier. The other forum would be the National Consumer Tribunal. So both of those will help resolve any conflicts that you may have. If we look at practical ways to comply with the Act, number one, you need to disclose all prices of goods that are on sale. So make them clear so that your consumers can see what it costs. The next one is you need to provide adequate training to your staff so that they know what the law says about the Consumer Protection Act. You need to follow the legal requirements of promotional competitions. And there are quite a few more we need to look at. You need to display the name of the business on all your documents, letterheads, invoices, and all contracts must have a 5-day cooling off period, which means if someone signs it, they have 5 days in which they can come back and say, actually, I didn't really want to sign that contract. We're going to cancel it. You need to ensure that your goods and services offered are of a certain standard and are of a good quality. Let's now move on to the penalties. Your contract may be rendered void. Okay, so this means that if there's something that is wrong in the contract, it may be seen as not necessarily being able to be followed out. You may face imprisonment of no more than 10 years. I see that there's a spelling mistake there. Sorry for that. A fine may be imposed on you by the Commission. Businesses may have to pay any damages to their consumers. A business may have to replace goods if a customer brings it back as faulty, or they may have to refund the money to the customer. And lastly, let's look at the discriminatory actions according to the Consumer Protection Act. Denying customers proper information about the goods and services is discriminatory. You need to let them know everything about the product that they are buying, especially when they are more expensive products like a car or a house or a TV or any of those type of things. You may not vary the quality of goods when selling it in different areas. So let's say you have a restaurant and in Durban, in the city, you're going to actually supply Coca-Cola, but if you're selling it in a more rural area, like let's say Hoedspruit in the Eastern Transvaal, you now replace the Coca-Cola with the Spar no-name brand, okay, and you still say that it's Coca-Cola. That would be varying the quality of goods. You may not prioritize any consumer group over another when marketing or selling. You may not charge unfair prices for the same goods and services. There's a huge issue now about the price of ginger and garlic and why it has gone up so much. And so that's an issue that needs to be looked at. You may not treat your customers differently based on their gender or their age or their race. And the picture I've got there is of a telecommunications company in Asia called Maxis. And what they did is they started offering really cheap contracts to all their new customers. And a customer who had been with them for 15 years got really upset because when he phoned to say, I've been a customer for 15 years, I would now like to have this offer of this cheaper contract that you're giving. They didn't even respond to him, so they treated him very unfairly, and were rather giving all these deals to new customers and not looking after their old customers. So I hope that that's given you a good understanding of the Consumer Protection Act. And in the next video, I'll be discussing each of the rights that you as consumers have. Have a good day.